Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another edition of the Fandalorians, where we are diving deep into this week's Mandalorian episode, Chapter 11, The Heiress. Something I think many of us have been waiting a long time for, and an episode, I'm just going to say straight off the bat, was totally kick-ass. But joining me, as always, we have right over here off to my side, Mr. Don Willie.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I can't say anymore. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy.
And of course, equally excited at the lower half of your screen is from Smirking Gun Reviews, Rob Stone.
What is up? Yeah, this is a very, very exciting episode to talk about. So I might as well just get going because I got nothing to say unless I don't want to take up any more time. Let's jump in.
Sure. Okay, well, let's kind of kick things off with, as we normally do, kind of our quick little impressions. What grabbed you on the episode? What was the big moments for you? I know there's a lot of obvious ones and such. So, Rob, why don't you kick us off down there? What are your big impressions or reviews? Give us your kind of quick 1-2 on it, and what you go at it.
Well, this is the Clone Wars come to life. Like, this is where we're seeing, this is so many of the episodes that dealt with Mandalore and the Mandalorians from that show just come right to bursting to life. All the stuff that you saw in the cartoon, you've got right here. It's so fun and exciting to watch a bunch of these characters that we all like suddenly just taking full. This whole episode was just full of Mandalorian goodness. We wanted to see how great of warriors they are and what they're all capable of and why they should be feared. This episode gives you that. This also has a great location. We're way far away from the desert. We couldn't be further from the desert. We got some great space action at the beginning. We've got some really exciting, kind of Mos Eisley kind of stuff going on this seaport place. We've got the Empire still being the Empire, but at not quite themselves anymore. And you got the child. I almost said Baby Yoda, and then I said it anyway. But we got the child who's learning maybe to respect other people's property.
Maybe a little bit. What do you think? A little bit? Yeah.
All in all, just a fantastic episode.
Wonderful. Don, what about you? What were your big impressions and takes off of this? What got you excited this week? And evidently a lot.
Oh boy. So yeah, look, it might sound crazy, but I stayed up until 3:00 Eastern time when it actually came on in order to watch the episode. And I remember sitting there, you see the flash of Sasha Banks, you got the Mon Calamari, you got the Quarians, and I'm like, oh man, this is cool. And then on the boat, we have the scene. The Night Owls show up. Bo-Katan Kryze. Oh my god. I'm like, they actually have her in live action. This is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because who ever thought that we would get to see a character who appeared only in animation in live action, played by the actual actor who voiced them. I'm like, wow. And then, the mixture of the Mandalorian culture, some deep cuts in there that hopefully we'll get to talk about. Yeah, man, it was just this was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, and even for it to be, it's the shortest episode of the season, but it didn't feel rushed, you know, and expanded. Just kind of, you see the progression of Din Djarin and his journey and what he knows of the universe. You know, him being on the Outer Rim and not knowing things that happen in the core, and finally getting introduced to the Jedi, getting introduced to other Mandalorians, and finding out that, you know, could there possibly be more than one way? So yeah, Darren, take it away, and yeah, like I don't want to ramble on.
Oh, no. You were covering beautifully. Yeah. This really was, I think, the episode so many people have waited for. I mean, since Mandalorian came out, they're like, we want to see Mandalorian combat action. And this had it to the T. And in fact, I think that this is almost a perfect episode in my mind. What caught me the most is that nothing felt out of place in this episode. Every creature, every port, every location, everything felt like it belonged. It felt Star Wars. From the Mon Cal on the port that was just sort of looking up, just glancing as the Razorback was plummeting down towards the port, to the interactions of everybody in the background, the bar, the cute couple reuniting, the Quarren pirates. I mean, everything felt right. The troopers all on the ship, everybody felt like they belonged. Nobody felt they were making a joke of Star Wars. And personally, that's one of those things where I think why Pelimoto doesn't connect with me, because to me that feels like this is a character making fun of Star Wars, not being a funny character within it. But everything here just I think felt amazing, and I've got to give it up to Bryce Dallas Howard. She did the Sanctuary last season, which, while kind of a simple told before story, was done beautifully, had some great visuals. I love the ATST, the red lighting and all of that through the forest. It was an exciting episode. And after watching this, when her name popped up as directed by, I'm like, give her all the Star Wars. Whatever she wants to do, she can do it. She has been hiding this little talent, building it up, and has now released it to us. I think the perfect bit, as we'll sort of transition, is the whole opening sequence, which is a beautiful homage to Apollo 13. From the shots of the ship dropping in through atmosphere, heating up, plummeting down. You can actually, somebody on Twitter did a beautiful comparison of the two. And it really is just a beautiful, again, not a copy, an homage to what her dad did with Apollo 13. And to me, again, it felt great. It was exciting. And I loved, again, compared to with the Mon Cal sitting there on the port, just watching as the ship is plummeting down on fire. You think it'd be concerned. And it's like, no, this is Star Wars. This is a port. They're just, yep. I mean, it was just, oh God, from the get-go. And then, of course, the ship just dropping down, having the comic bit of almost landing and no into the water was, kind of the perfect little mix of drama, exciting, and comedy in my mind.
But, and can we give it up for the visual effects department? Because I rewatched that right before we came on, and I was like, that looks so real. You know, they did not build a giant Razor Crest and dump it into a tank. So whatever they did, whether it had been a miniature or CG or whatever may have you, I looked at that and I'm like, this is not a TV show. This is a movie. This is a big budget movie. And somehow they got this to look as real as you can possibly get it. And I'm like, I don't know how they do it. They are magicians. They are actual Jedi in real life.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, really, so much of the show is all completely digitally created. That's the amazing thing. The fact that we actually do have so many practical monsters and creatures and such mixed in without almost completely computer generated background is astounding. I mean, God, this is what Lucas was probably dreaming of years ago with how he wanted to have the sort of technology mix in. So again, I think a beautiful opening. It kind of sets the tone. And we get a nice shot of what the giant crane on top of the AT-AT legs, scooping them up and out of the water. And that gives us to our reuniting of the frog family. I don't know what their species are. Everything I've just referred to has been the frog family, so I'm just going to keep calling them that. Which, honestly, super cute. I really loved that. My wife jumped in to watch this episode. She hadn't seen the last one. She doesn't like spiders. And she was taken aback by, again, from the beginning to this. She wanted to know. She loved the egg carrier, and I didn't have the heart to tell her about the whole drama that had happened last episode. But yeah, as you had mentioned, Don, I think perhaps starting to, maybe this is Baby Yoda learning to have a little bit of respect for some other Rob mentioned that. My bad. A little bit of respect for other creatures, maybe not just eating whatever it is that he finds. What do you guys like about the frog family reuniting and all that little bit? Any thoughts or comments, impressions there?
Just that I've seen a lot of that kind of emotion in the animated form of Star Wars, and it kind of just doesn't translate well to me. But this did. They, being live action, and even though they're just people in suits, I felt a lot more connection to, like, that they felt more real. Not just, of course they felt more real. I mean, it's a more realistic looking thing, but either one can succeed. I just think that this succeeded more, making me care that she got to where she needed to go. A lot of times these characters are just kind of like, yeah, fine, moving on. But I did care. I mean, we don't really have a lot of dialogue from the characters, but we understand the situation. We understand, we can empathize with her situation. Mm-hmm. She's trying to get home with her offspring to not really knowing where her husband is or her life mate or whatever. And finally getting there with some of the offspring still alive, thankfully. There was something there. And then it was nice to see them, be able to revisit them again when he needed to drop the baby off, even mm-hmm. though there had to be that nagging feeling of, if I had anywhere else to take this kid, I would. If I could just leave him in the ship, I would. But I can't, and I gotta risk that baby, the child here is gonna be able to mind his P's and Q's. I know he had to be thinking that in his mind, right? It's like subtext of, like, the further along this mission goes, he's like, okay, how many were left when I dropped him off? How many are going to be there when I get back?
I think he actually mentions that, doesn't he? When he says, like, now behave yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like they were, normally I don't feel much in those situations. And I thought it was really nice. Maybe it's the noises and everything they're making, it's just kind of cute. And yeah, I was surprisingly moved by it, which is a lot for me, I guess, in these situations.
Yeah. Don, any thoughts there on our reunited couple?
Yeah, it was, glad to see after the events of the last episode that they actually got their happy ending. And one of them actually hatched, and like Rob said, I think that the child finally got a new appreciation for the fact that, hey, these aren't just, food items. These are, living things, and you can't just go around and decide, oh, well, I'm hungry, I want something to eat, and here is something. It's edible. So, yeah, that was, obviously touching. And then at the end, he's trying to take it with him, and then he's like, no, I only got one pet.
Well, yeah, actually, what's kind of an interesting arc there with him kind of learning the food, because obviously, he starts feasting on Mama's eggs right here, and then by the end of last episode, his attempt to eat releases all of these spiders that attack him. This one, he's more careful about the food, which is now attacking him. He's a little more cautious, and now he's seeing, oh, well, this is now alive and now a new creature who's fun and a baby like me. I don't know. Maybe in the background, they're actually giving Baby Yoda a whole little learning lesson in the whole scope of watch what you eat.
Could be.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of putting it. Like, without words, you can kind of understand that the child understands that what was just this circular, delicious smelling orb as something that's actually in it, and then having the food attack him, meaning everybody, everything can be somebody else's food. And then when it hatches at the end, realizing that, there is life, like it's a nonverbal message.
Yeah.
They don't need language to show it. We just infer it. And I thought that's really good storytelling.
Yeah, no, it does. It gives him an arc without having to expressly, state it out in front. I want to take a moment to welcome joining us live in the chat, Devra, Silver Surfer. As always such a blast to have you guys joining us. They had a few thoughts as well. Devra asking, why the heck is this episode called the Heiress? Hold on, I actually have a whole nice little explanation of that for you coming up. Really enjoying a lot of comments on the final attack on the Imperial ship there. But Dev also mentioned that they used a miniature 3D model dropped in a tank for the Razor Crest in the very beginning. There's a whole behind the scenes special on Disney Plus. I haven't checked it out either. I know that's not the best host of me doing that. But they do have some amazing stuff on that. I would highly recommend checking that out. Dun, dun, dun. Also loving Mama Frog being a good babysitter. Kind of a nice exchange considering the loss of some of her eggs. Okay, so
wait, yeah. How funny would it have been if he came back and they had like Baby Yoda on a spit, like the Ewoks did, like getting ready to cook him? I don't mean like stabbed or nothing, but like getting ready to cook him and they'd just be like, like, awkward.
It would have been the comic ending, but I think we would have lost that important kind of like compassion lesson at the end. That would have been more of a literal dog eat dog world, or creature eat creature world.
Well, shoot, not to mention the fact that I'm pretty sure he would have blown those two away, and then be like, all right, come on, kid, yeah, eat all the eggs you want.
I think it would have definitely led to the wrong lesson for the Disney crowd. I think after all of that. Okay. So our passenger is delivered. True to his word, Papa Frog gives the Mandalorian direction towards a bar, which allows him to connect with apparently a Quarren who can lead to some more Mandalorians. Just a kind of a nice, cool bar scene. I love the these seats are rare, if you got to eat if you want to sit down. I mean, it just sounded like a rough port bar. And this, of course, connects us to our Quarren, basically what ends up being our Quarren pirates looking to score themselves some Beskar. Don, you want to take the lead on this most beautiful of scenes? Many things happening, many callbacks for classic Star Wars lore actually happening within this scene. Don, why don't you take this one away? Lead our people down the lovely war that is the Quarren ship fight.
Well, first off, you have the the mama what is it called? I'm sorry.
The Manticore?
Yeah, Manticore, which is kind of based off of another ancient thing called a Manticore. Which, funny thing is, I didn't know that was something in like human like literature. I thought that was something from Game of Thrones because that's the only time I've ever heard of it before. But you have now the Mandalorian who is trying to save the child because his Quarrens have committed some kung fu treachery on him. And in come the Night Owls, led by Bo-Katan Kryze. And oh man. For those of you who have never watched anything other than the movies and The Mandalorian, Bo-Katan Kryze is a Mandalorian who rightfully should be the person holding the Dark Saber. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of Rebels, she was the person holding the Dark Saber, which means she technically is the leader of the Mandalorians. But somehow she has lost the Dark Saber to Moff Gideon, and flanked by her two other companions, they were able to save Din Djarin. And of course, they take off their helmets, which is something that in Star Wars Clone Wars and Rebels TV shows happens all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, for those of us who have watched kind of the other non-live action Star Wars shows, you know, you get to the Mandalorian and you find out that, you know, they're not allowed to move their helmets. It's like, when did this happen? This is new. And then to hear that Din Djarin is a child of the Watch. Now, the Watch, also known as Death Watch, is a Mandalorian sect that believe that they need to always be warriors. You know, they are all about conquest, but they are also all about Mandalorians first. You know, and this is where Din Djarin gets his credo from. This is why you always hear him talking about this is the way. And this is why, you know, I have never removed my hat, and my hat has never been removed by others. So, and yeah, you know, I'm loving the fact that they used the same actress who voiced Bo-Katan as the actual live actor for the character. Now, there have been people who were asking, hey, well, shouldn't she be way older? I mean, for one, you know, different galaxy, different human species, we don't know their age cycles. And then also, we don't know how old she was during the Clone Wars. I believe Katee Sackhoff is like late 30s, early 40s. And this takes place about maybe 25 or so years after the Clone Wars. So she might have been in her, you know, late teens, early 20s around that time. So it lines up. You know, people were expecting that she should be like old or something. I'm like, no, guys, no. It's only, you know, only a few years older than, well, no. She might be like maybe 20 years older than Luke at this point. But point is, remember, Luke would have only been about maybe 22, 23. So her being in her early to mid 40s kind of lines up. I guess they weren't expecting her hair to still be so red at that point.
That's fine. That's fine. People keep their hair colored pretty late in life. That's all genetics. We don't know what Mandalorian genetics are like.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, look at her. She played She was Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica. That was 16 years ago, 17 years ago now. So this is a perfect time if we're looking the difference that she could have been in the Clone Wars and now post Yavin almost in this exact same age range. So I think she's perfect in this.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys take it away so I don't start rambling again.
Well, let me go in with my quick little bit, and then I'll toss it over to Rob. I did want to go in and talk a little bit about Bo-Katan and the Dark Saber, because both are brought. We've got Bo-Katan, of course, obviously introduced to us. She does mention the Dark Saber later on, which has with Moff Gideon. So if you are not familiar with either of those characters, I do have a brief little history I can give for you guys. So, all right. The Dark Saber is a one-of-a-kind black-bladed lightsaber created over 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, a.k.a. the destruction of the first Death Star, by Tar Vizsla, the first and, as far as we know, only Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order. After he died, the Dark Saber was held at the Jedi Temple until members of House Vizsla snuck in and stole it during the fall of the Old Republic. That was when it was first used to unify the Mandalorian people, and ever since has been an important symbol of House Vizsla and highly respected by all the other Mandalorian clans. Now, the Dark Saber was passed down for generations by House Vizsla, even as the pacifistic ideals of New Mandalore replaced their old warrior ways until the Clone Wars, when Governor Pre Vizsla of the Mandalorian mood Concordia was revealed as the secret leader of the warrior cult Death Watch, who wished to return to the old Mandalorian warrior ways, and was seeking to use it to again unite the Mandalorian people and overthrow the pacifist idealist and one-time sort of Obi-Wan Kenobi girlfriend, Empress Satine, which is, of course, where Bo-Katan comes in. Now, Bo-Katan was a lieutenant in Death Watch, as well as being the sister of Duchess Satine, but obviously they disagreed on how Mandalorian culture should be. During their battles with the new Mandalore government, Death Watch encountered Darth Maul and his brother Savage Opress and decided to ally with him in a gambit to use the Sith to attack Mandalore, and then Death Watch would fight them off and, as victors, win the heart of the people. And it worked, which allowed Pre Vizsla to take control of Mandalore and imprison the Duchess. Until, of course, Maul betrayed Vizsla, killed him, took the Dark Saber, and rule of Mandalore. Don't trust Sith. People never learn that lesson. Needless to say, this is not what Bo-Katan had signed up for, and while she tried to right her wrongs and free her sister, the Duchess was killed by Maul, and Bo-Katan and the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi were driven from the planet. Though, of course, Maul's victory was short-lived, as soon afterwards Bo-Katan returned with the ex-Jedi Ahsoka Tano to retake Mandalore, and Darth Sidious came looking for his old apprentice. And in a beautiful scene, I would highly check out in that final season of Clone Wars, whooped his ass. Now, years passed until the Dark Saber was rediscovered amongst Maul's possessions on the planet Darthamir by the Jedi apprentice Ezra Bridger and retrieved by the Mandalorian rebel Sabine Wren. And while Sabine earned the right to wield the Dark Saber through single combat, she knew the Dark Symbol was a symbol strong enough to unite the disparate Mandalorian clans and help them throw off the Imperial rule that had descended into Mandalore after the Clone Wars, which is how it eventually came into the hands of Lady Bo-Katan Kryze, who had continued to fight against Mandalore's oppressors all these years, giving her the title of Mandalore. Now, what happens afterwards is kind of unwritten. Basically, all we know at this point is right after this, the purge occurred. Bo-Katan was apparently driven from Mandalore. She lost the Dark Saber to the Imperial magistrate there, Goff Midian. Let me get that, Moff Gideon. I can put those words in the right place. And this has created her pursuit to again try and regain the Dark Saber. What all that is, we don't know. There is a few extra bits of info about the time between the Clone Wars and the Dark Saber being rediscovered on Dathomir that's in some of the comics and books. But again, I don't pay attention to any of that because Disney is going to change any of those as it wishes, as it makes anything live action. So I'm just kind of focusing on the live action story of Bo-Katan and the Dark Saber. So this is why this is so important. The Dark Saber will unite Mandalore. Bo-Katan was to rule Mandalore, and then, of course, was thrown off by the Imperials and have been fighting ever since. So this is kind of a big deal for her. You could see why she is so driven to get it, and shows you why she is a force to be reckoned. She has been battling her entire life. And damn, does she look it. My God, she moves so beautifully. Having Katee Sackhoff, Starbuck, now being a badass Mandalorian, the moves, beautiful. There's a very almost Japanese feel to a lot of this. The flying of the Mandalorian armor, the jetpacks, the group attacks, and all of this was astounding. Sorry, this is where I just gush all over the place, because that's why I think knowing all this backstory, I think, makes it even more exciting when they show up, as Don can easily attend there, to just be like, yes, now let us see. And they did it magnificently. Okay, Rob, it's your turn. We've got the upper layer here has just gone all out here. So what do you think?
All right. I want, yeah. Like, okay, so at the end of our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 1 thing, I kind of didn't. Everybody really knew what to say after I laid out my little end thing. So now it's my turn to feel that way. Like, where am I? I just got a history lesson in how to talk about the show. Well, for me, I loved every bit of it. Starting with that bar scene, I loved the Mon Calamari that was working on the ship. He sounded. The first thing I thought of when he started talking is, I don't know if you guys know of a game called Abe's Odyssey. It's an old game. He sounded like Abe. He sounded like one of those guys. I really liked that. The little octopus that jumps on Baby Yoda's face was great. Don't play with your food. The only thing that, and I said it in, Boba Fett said it in my review, or his review. I better, watch out how I say all those things, right? Keep it all straight. That it kind of took me out of it for a second when I knew it was an obvious trap, because the guy is literally like, yeah, I'll take you out there. Like, he barely he's like, he's gonna betray you, right? He just laughed when he said he's gonna take you out there, like but other than that, I really liked that whole setup. Now, are they really pirates? Because they seem like they were fishermen.
I just called them pirates.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they were opportunists. They were fishermen who saw an opportunity, because everybody's talking about Beskar steel everywhere you go. It's the opportunity to get your hands on Beskar steel. They do continue to reinforce that. Yeah. So I think these were just some guys that saw an opportunity and made a really big mistake. Really big mistake. They probably weren't that great of guys anyway if they were willing to do this, but up until this moment, they had just been maybe waiting for their, big shot. And especially when you see that the brother, his reaction to everything, like, he was probably just as bad as the other guy in the end. But yeah, the fluidity of their fighting felt like animated. Like, literally, I mean, I know that some of it was probably, was like digital and stuff like that, but I mean, but it still looked fantastic. It didn't look like it wasn't actually happening. Mm-hmm. And then, having it be Katee Sackhoff is such a great way that I hope that they can start doing that more in other things. when it makes sense. And especially, I was so happy to see Katee Sackhoff in something that's good science fiction again, because she was on that Netflix show Another Life recently that I couldn't. I tried. It was one of the worst things I've seen in a while, and I hated that she was a part of it. And it was like this really supposed to be really serious sci-fi about, you know, finding other planets and stuff, and it turned into this. It was one of some of the worst acting I've ever seen in my life, and it just seeing her in this now, I was like, oh, thank God she's back to being in something good like Battlestar Galactica or playing Bo-Katan in the cartoon, and now getting to play her here. I really, really dig it. And yeah, is this the way? You know, it's like they've been looking for probably other Mandalorians too, and they find this one, and they're like, oh God, he's one of them. You know, and it but it's nice to also to bring back that there were other clans, and not every Mandalorian believed in certain things. And I feel like, you know, our Mandalorian, he's not privy to all this stuff. He just kind of went along because that's what he, you know, he was found by them. He learned their way. But it's also a real easy way to look at it, that this is just another opportunity for him to learn new ways and become something more than what he was just taught. You know, that the people that protected him before, you know, these people are going to protect him now. There's new ways to do things. And I think that he'll find that Bo-Katan's ways are way more in line with what he wants to do with the child anyway. Because they're, like you said, they're more about just being for themselves and being just hardcore warriors. There's no Bo-Katan stuff was more leaning towards peace after everything that happened. And so I think that this is just another jumping off point where, I mean, even at the end of this, she's kind of got that look like he'll come around, like we'll get him on our side, you know. But it was all just really fantastically done, that scene. And yeah, when we get to the next part where we start talking about that, there's so much more to say. And yeah, the monster in the water. Oh, although did she have to rip off the door of the pod? Because now he's got to find a new pod.
Well, I think because it was crushed, I think it was yeah. Let's be sure that it's alive, you know, and someone, because I thought the exact same thing, but then I'm like, oh no, it's a let's make sure it's alive check. This thing can be repaired, you know, which was, you know, honestly kind of heartwarming. Yeah, I mean, we had a couple of great callbacks in that scene also. One, of course, we have the Mama Core there looking very Sarlacc-y, almost very Sarlacc pit. And of course, the minute that those Quarren ninja staff Baby Yoda right into the pit there, that spells their doom. I mean, if they attacked Mando, that would have been one thing, but they attacked. I mean, and even the Quarren when the brother shows up, it's like, you killed my brother, so I'm going to kill your pet. They do not like Baby Yoda. That means they're no good. They deserve to die. I think we can all accept that. But also, you had brought up, you know, him being rescued as a child by the Death Watch. If you rewatch that scene, that has the Death Watch symbol on their arms, which makes sense why he would then be a child of the Watch. His rescue by Bo-Katan, though, almost mirrors that shot for shot. Both the shot when he's underneath and she opens up and reaches down and grabs his hand and pulls him back out. Like you were saying, Rob, it's like this is in his introduction to another way. It's almost a rebirth into the Mandalorian culture, that he is now seeing a larger world of which he'll be able to make choices which way that he wants to go. There is not just one way. There are many ways of the Mandalore, you know. So that was kind of, you know, I really saw that as almost a rebirth type kind of scene, not to mention just, you know, the obvious straight kind of, you know, physical comparatives to that. And yeah, and the fact that he dismisses her or dismisses them was like, no, you're crazy. What? There is no other way. This is nuts. And he leaves. They just let him go. And I love the great shot as he's there as they take off and blow up the ship. Like, well, yeah, of course, this thing is not gonna. Yeah, you've crossed the line. You're not going to exist. And then re-popping up later on when the brother shows up. It's like, you killed our brother, lad. Actually, he didn't. I did. And just mows them down in a heartbeat. Can we buy you a drink? Or at least let us buy you a drink. I mean, that is like badass, period. Underscored, framed, put on the wall right there. It's damn. Damn.
That would have been. Did you guys notice that when it came to that particular fight, he didn't even get time to shoot. They had already taken everybody out.
Well, yeah, that was the best part. That was the best part. They just mowed him down and just, yeah. Ah. This is why this is the episode we've been wanting to see so much. This is the episode that shows us how dangerous Mandalorians are. I mean, 8 lasted when the whole coven came to protect him so he could get out of town. I mean, that was badass. That was just like warriors versus warriors, open street shooting, surviving. That was cool. This is why people have fear when you mention Mandalorians. So I think it's only fair to let Rob lead us into the next big giant bit, which is I can help you find a Jedi if you do one little thing for me. It is the way. Oh.
Yeah, the freighter scene. First when they're just planning it, how beautiful was that shot of them just sitting there on top of the razor, like just watching it. Like it just showed the scope and just it was just so beautiful and it's just like I wanted to be there and just be hanging out, listening. Like, don't worry, I'm not gonna get in your way. I just wanna just be here in that world. I wanted to. That's what you feel like, right? In good Star Wars, is you want to be there.
Yeah.
And that's what that felt like. Like whenever they, whenever I watch Return of the Jedi, I want to be on Endor. The way that they shoot it and everything. And this just was such a great shot. It made me feel like I was watching some of the stuff from early Star Wars. And then we get the mission to go get the information on the ship. They have the weapons. She's after the Dark Saber and the information and all that. And we get to just whoop on some Imperials again. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old. Like Boba Fett in my review said, you can do anything you want to these guys. You can do whatever you want. And they sure do. They take out. Did you see how many different ways stormtroopers got taken out in this episode? There was that one who got the blade to the just. I mean, they got shot out of the. I mean, and the other thing is, the Empire, seeing the Empire this way, after Jedi, scrambling around. As much as Moff Gideon likes to stand there and be all the face of, long live the Empire and everything, but there's some doubts in the Empire now. They are shaken. They are they've lost everything. They are the ones on the run. They are the rebels. And they feel like for the first time what the rebellion felt like. Those pilots, they were shaken in their boots. And it wasn't just, it was immediate. It wasn't just because it got worse when they found out that they were Mandalorians. But these are very shaky times, and the fact that there are people still willing to go along with the Empire, now especially after the fact, the ones that stuck, you really got to take these assholes out, okay? Because they're the real true. But if you can stick around after 2 Death Stars blow up, the Emperor got thrown down, a giant chute in the exploding Death Star. Darth Vader, they all assume he's dead, right? They all heard about it. I'm sure the stories are out there that Darth Vader's gone, and yet they still go, this could still work. And
long live the Empire!
these missions that they're on, to them, these are as desperate as any rebellion plan, anything that the rebels ever tried to pull. This is them desperately trying to get somewhere, because they said they got a place to meet, right? So that means that there's a just like the rebellion would have a meeting place. Now the Empire has to go to their secret place and meet up. They don't get to just be out in the open. The tables, they have turned. And now you get this, the Mandalorians show up. You get that poor guy that, thinks he's got the upper hand on him. We got him trapped in the cargo, area.
Cargo control.
Where? Which is the other thing, is that we've got, Titus Welliver in this now, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who played Agent Blake, and as Silver Surfer mentioned, also Bakshi.
Yeah, as Axe, is it the other Mandalorian? Yeah.
So we got 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people in here, which is great. And Titus Welliver is just such a he's that man with the like 1,000-yard stare. He's a kind of a Timothy Oliphant kind of character. He's got that rugged cowboy look, the guy who's seen a lot, and it's great to see him here as this guy who, probably thought this wasn't going to be such a bad day, and then it doesn't go well for him. But again, showing that there are still true believers in the Empire, willing to go down with the ship, literally.
Right.
Now the pilots, on the other hand, maybe not so much, but they didn't get really a choice in the matter,
They were concerned from the get-go about the direction things were going. You could tell with those looks back and forth, like, why did I take Bob's shift today?
Yeah, all we needed was an audible gulp. That would have been the coup. That would have been the coup de grace. Is if somebody literally went, pull on those. Because it was just glorious, and them coming in there and just mowing them down in so many different ways. Like I said,
I think for the pilots, as soon as they saw the stormtrooper hit the windshield, it was like, why is there a stormtrooper flying at us from outside?
Don't tell me we left another stormtrooper on top of the roof before we left. Like your cup of coffee or something, like this all of a sudden flies off when you hit the brakes.
Whoa, that's where we put him.
Oh, Steve, we told you to get inside before we took off. But yeah.
Well, that was something mentioned in the chat as well. The progression of the attack is, first of all, they're looking great. The flying, the jetpack movement and everything all was awesome looking on this. Actually reminded me again of a lot of early Japanese, like Ultraman and stuff like that. But it's like they kick the first few, then finally pirates, and that's the only thing that's out. And then you see Steve dropping off on the windshield there. And then it's like, oh, we got 10 stormtroopers inside. Oh, we only pick up 4 heat signatures. Oh, they're Mandalorians. And just the constant look while it's all happening of the panic rising as they're just taking everyone out. Was, I think, beautifully done. And also, I think we saw like almost every weapon used between both the attack on the ship. I'm not sure if we saw the flamethrower, but they were using the wrist rockets, the stab gauntlets that Bo-Katan had there, the double guns, the multiples. We have Mando using his little explosive mini bombs there, with the jetpacks, and even in the beginning is the way that they're landing and moving and using them. It was just we really did feel these were warriors that knew every weapon and how to use them.
Listen, we also have to give a shout out for the choreography, especially between Bo-Katan and the 2 individuals that she was with, because all they had to do was nod, and it was like they moved as a unit. So it was like, okay, you already know, all right, cool. We're gonna do, combination alpha. All right, cool, boom, done.
Yeah.
You know, all right. You give another look. All right, this is combination theta. All right, done. And the way that they moved together, it was like they moved in sync. It was almost like synchronized swimming, except with guns and knives.
And we even sought to see the progression against the enemies. I had read somewhere somebody compared it to much like a video game. As they're progressing through the ship, the enemies are getting harder and harder until we get to the repeating blaster there at the end, which gives Mando his big hero moment of taking the shots to the Beskar, tossing the micro grenades out. And even then, as the ship as they're coming up behind him, he's already pulling his gun and heading towards, like, all right, let's go. I mean, it's very Western look with all of that. The guy here that just tossed the dynamite and is now heading back into the mine. But yeah, so an awesome scene, very comical, certainly proof do not lock Mandalorians into cargo control when you're in the cargo bay. Beautiful shot there. But yeah,
I was going to say that was absolutely hilarious when the elevator is coming up. It opens and did it take about like maybe 5 seconds or less before he's like, close the doors, close the door.
No, we're not going to make this one. Yeah. You understand the panic, though. I mean, I was terrified for them, except, like Boa said, they're stormtroopers. You could do anything with them. It's just... all right. So a great kind of setup. By the end of this, of course, we find out Bo-Katan's really looking for the Dark Saber. Moff Gideon obviously must have it. Titus certainly impure captain willing to die as opposed to give up any more information. So we've got a bunch of weapons that are now being liberated to help in the fight to retake Mandalore. Which gives us obviously what Bo-Katan and the Night Owls and whatever their forces are going to be doing, and where we're obviously going to have to reconnect later on in the season as we gather much like last season, gather our friends together for a big attack against Moff Gideon. Obviously, Bo-Katan would be very interested in such an attack anyway, because she wants what he has. But most importantly, for the end of this, we get a nod for our Jedi contact over on the planet Caladan, a Jedi by the name of Ahsoka Tano. And all the nerds went crazy. So we get Katee Sackhoff as Bo-Katan, the first animated character to be played by the character who voiced them in live action. Yes, we did have Saul Guerrero, but he was played by a different actor than the one who voiced him. And unfortunately, we do not have the actress who voiced Ahsoka Tano. Now, we do have Rosario Dawson playing her. Most likely, that's the rumors we've all been hearing. So not a bad sub there. And I think also age-wise, she would probably lock in a little bit more than the actor who's voiced Ahsoka in the animated series. Though again, kind of a bummer there, but I understand the changes that they want. But this, I mean, not only are we excited about this as fans and nerds and all of that, but this really opens a lot of doors. Already by the third episode, we are seeing Boba Fett alive. Bo-Katan going to liberate Mandalore. Ahsoka Tano, who last was seen partnering with Sabine Wren to go find Ezra Bridger, we have all the feels. Not only do we have a beautiful mix of the animated and live action Star Wars happening here, we have a lot of jumping off points for spin-offs, for one-offs, for where this series itself could go, or again, they could just be seeding all of these future directions of what we want to see. So where do you think this is going? Are we seeding a live action universe that's going to be spreading out? Are we looking at possible directions for Mandalorian? I mean, look, put Katee Sackhoff in a show and I will watch, as Bo-Katan, I will watch the hell out of that. You want to have Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren going to look for Ezra Bridger? I will watch the hell out of that. You want to see Boba Fett taking revenge against any Sarlacc he sees on Tatooine because he's really suffering from PTSD? I'm all with that, whatever they want to do. Because I still think on top of that, we're going to have Mandalorian doing his own adventure. But what do you guys think? What are they doing to us here?
They're taking all our money. They're taking all of our money. That is what they do. This is the way to reach into our pockets.
That is the way. This is the way. And it works. But it works. I mean, if they're going to do it like this, more, yes, please. Zach Johnson in the chat asking, hope to get a comic book about Din's childhood. The flashbooks in S1 were really awesome. I think we might actually get a bit more of an explanation. I think Din is more important than anyone is letting on. The fact that he knows his name, the fact that his parents were hiding him and not just running to try to escape. They weren't trying to escape with him. They didn't try to hide with him. They were specifically hiding him away from them. And why did Death Watch come to rescue him? I think there's more to Din's story that maybe we're learning over in future smarts. But that's just me. Rob, what do you think they're doing for us?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that the rumor of or the idea that we might not see a Star Wars movie for a good long while at the theater, not just because of COVID or some failures or some lack of plans or a whole lot of other things we can go into. I think that this is the best way for Disney to financially gain from the deal, which is by making long form shows that people have to pay monthly for. And just like AMC and The Walking Dead always having a show on, every they not without taking a break, you're always going to have Walking Dead in some fashion, right? You always get people watching your stuff. Well, it's the same thing here. And as long as the content's quality stays on point, then it's going to be a gold mine.
Right. And
I'll watch any of it. The idea of finally seeing Ahsoka Tano with Rosario Dawson, hopefully, after all the sci-fi alien women I've seen, I'm finally ready to be attracted to one. Because Rosario Dawson is, and she's a hell of an actress.
Yeah.
And I think she's perfect. The right height, the right attitude. Rosario Dawson is a very spunky actress and a very spunky person in real life. So I'm really excited to see her be going on as this character. And I would love to see her just get her own spinoff too. Just like I'd love to see Bo-Katan. I'd love to see, Ezra Bridger. I would love to see Ezra Bridger and Sabine.
Oh yeah.
Let's get Sabine back in this. And once you start talking, right, you've already got the answer. And what Don already said, they're going to take all our money. and we're gonna willingly give it to them because they're going to be giving us what we want, which is good Star Wars. They're getting back to not just Jedi and Sith. We're seeing the entire universe, like we were talking about last week, with this kind of episode that's like, oh, there's not really much there. Yeah, there is. There's a lot there. It's the universe. We're seeing a bigger picture of the universe. If you want to just see Jedi and Sith go at it, there are 9 movies. And tons of it in the Clone Wars and Rebels and all that stuff has all that stuff in there. Now we're going to start showing off the universe. Now we're going to start showing off what we can really do with this galaxy far, far away. And we'll still give us all that other stuff. We're just going to see a lot more of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and maybe they are, you know, unfortunately getting rid of a lot of stuff that we grew up on canon-wise. In the Star Wars comic book right now, they're rewriting the events in between Empire and Jedi, from, you know, getting rid of Shadows of the Empire and writing a new story. And I don't hate it. I know I kind of went with my voice there for a second, but I don't hate it. But it's their right to do it. They bought it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be either mad and not accept it, or you can hopefully, you know, see something good in it and go on with it, or you can just move on to something else. Because I feel like the spinning of the wheels of just complaining about the Star Wars universe right now just gets you nowhere. It gets you nowhere. The only way if you want them to change things, you got to show it with your wallet. And right now, I think that's what Disney's learning, is that even though Rise of Skywalker made money and Solo made money, they also are listening to what the reaction to these things were. And the fact that everybody's admitting that there was no plan to the Skywalker finales, whatever they were, and backing off and saying, we've got the streaming service, we've got the successful show in The Mandalorian, we've got all these things that we can do, all these things that we were setting up with Rebels cliffhanger and all the different places they can go backwards, forwards in time, doesn't matter. They bought it, they're not going to let go of it, and they're gonna squeeze as much money out of it as they can, and hopefully give us stories that we want to hear.
Yeah. Well, and I think they have realized there is something particularly magical about the Imperial era. That's what we are all familiar with. And yeah, we have worked all this time to make all these connections with characters. Yeah, they will take all of the money and they will have us completely on it if they're able to keep the quality up, which I think by doing maybe smaller series, and maybe it's not going to be there's Star Wars always playing, but you might have like 3 series a year, you know, maybe one a season if they do a whole lot, but basically just kind of small stories that they can focus on and have a team that can plan it out. I think that's what the difference is. Here we are seeing the benefits of planned out storylines, of building on what it is that you have, as opposed to sort of trying to start weaving new stuff out of whole cloth that has all the glitz and blam and Easter eggs and exciting references that we want, but doesn't have any actual story or composed vision behind it. And I think Jon Favreau's given that to Mandalorian, and I think Disney has properly looked. If COVID has done anything, it has taught them that the importance of what their streaming service is going to be, and that holding people's, you know, keeping that quality up is going to drive everyone to come see your thing, not just making it flashy and putting it on the big screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, at the end of the story first, story has been phenomenal thus far. They've given us something that we haven't seen in a long time, because now everything is so serialized. You know, it's good to actually have episodic television back again, and for it to be good. You know, and look, for one, the fact that you can see a Star Wars TV show that looks basically identical to something that you would see in the movie theater is amazing. And George Lucas, this is what he wanted to do years ago. He talked about doing a Star Wars live action show years ago, and he was like, if only there was a way to do it where it didn't cost as much. I'm just waiting for the technology to catch up
Yeah.
so I can do it the right way. And while I'm sad that George himself didn't get to do it, I'm glad that he's alive to see it get done. So this is this show, and yeah, this show and what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing are a testament to what pushing a genre forward, technology wise, can do. So yeah, we gotta give much respect to the team at Lucasfilm and also Disney for having the vision to say, hey, look, yeah, we know we can make money off of this, but we can also do it in a way that is that takes things forward in ways that people probably haven't even imagined before. So I'm along for the ride. Pretty sure you guys are along for the ride. I think we're probably not going to see Ahsoka in the next episode. We're probably going to go back to Navarro to see to catch up with Grief Karga and Cara Dune, and then episode 5, because episode 5 supposedly is the one directed by Dave Filoni, and we know he's the one that came up with Ahsoka. So, fingers crossed.
Well, I think, and I think that is probably one of the reasons we have such a great continuation, because I know that Filoni worked very closely with George Lucas during Clone Wars before they were pot up with Disney. So he is very well versed, and he has definitely been maneuvered to be maybe the new kind of Star Wars overseer showrunner, because he does have such a full understanding of the world. And I think it's a great continuation of, yeah, Lucas isn't here, but somebody he worked with that shared and learned that vision now is able to continue and carry that forward.
Oh, and one more quick thing, because I'm pretty sure we're about to wrap up soon. It's another callback. Well, just reference-wise with the whole taking off of the helmets. And that comes from Knights of the Old Republic, which was one of the greatest Star Wars games ever created. And in there's a Mandalorian character named Canderous Ordo. And if you ever played part 2 of Knights of the Old Republic, Canderous Ordo, even though they don't say his name, it's the same actor, and he kind of tells you some of the events of the first Knights of the Old Republic, and he is the new Mandalore. And Mandalore in the Star Wars Legends, Mandalore himself never takes off his helmet, never even takes off his armor.
Okay.
So that may be, kind of where Death Watch is, or, the Children of the Watch, or whatever it is that they're, we got to see whether or not Children of the Watch is even a splinter group off of Death Watch. But that may be the creed that they're following, because remember, Din Djarin is like, no, there's only one way, the way of the Mandalore. Mandalore doesn't take off his helmet, so neither do I.
Okay. All right. Rob, do you have something to add there?
It's this is just one of those conversations now where we're in it now, right? But no, I just this is one of those episodes that just gets you where we could talk about this for hours and hours about everything we experienced about the Mandalorians on Clone Wars and stuff like that. No, I just I think that, and I know it's not people don't like it when I say this, but streaming was the future. It is the future now. And as much as I like going to see a Quentin Tarantino movie at the theater, I'm fine with sitting at home too with my, ultra HD television and not having to deal with crowds and stuff like that. And I'm willing to pay the money for like a Marvel movie at home, and I think they're gonna. That's where it's kind of headed, and it's sad, and it's we get nostalgic about all that stuff, but everything in technology and entertainment has been changing for a good long while. And I mean, we're watching stuff on things the size that can fit in our hand, smaller than that. Children, babies are using these things, and it's finally now taken hold. I think that Disney's finally figured out this is really it. This is where we were going all those years ago. Can you imagine if what Walt Disney would be thinking right now? Like, we talk about George Lucas, right?
Right.
Talk about the visionary of Walt Disney and what he thought of this world, where it was going in places like Future World in one of the Disney parks. And that's quaint now. Can you imagine if he saw this? I talk about my grandfather sometimes to my dad, who was really into electronics and videotaping and home movies and things like that. And how he loved Disney movies and all that. And all he had there was tapes.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have DVDs. He died right as DVDs were getting started. And Laserdisc. He had Laserdisc. And I always like to think, I was like, man, can you imagine if he was alive right now to see a Disney streaming service? It would blow his mind. It'd be the thing that he's like, why couldn't I have had this like 30 years ago when I was, instead of taping all these things? And so I just feel like, and I know this isn't kind of on topic of talking about the episode, but it really does feel like this is the way. This is going to be the way. Mm-hmm. And we can hope that theaters reopen some point, in some fashion, and you can go see the big movies and everything there. But I'm honestly ready to just pack it in for the most part with theaters, and I'm already spending a lot of money on streaming services. If I'm at the theater, that's just more money I'm shelling out. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but like I said, I'll still go see Quentin Tarantino movies at the theater. But this is the way it's going to be, I think, from now on, really. Unless there's a massive, and I do think this will happen in some form, there will be some kind of streaming collapse of a lot of the smaller channels, but and bigger ones will just scoop them all up. In fact, we're already kind of seeing that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's all. That was my last big take about what we were talking about as far as the future of this series and stuff.
No, I think that's right on. I think that's exactly where things are going. I mean, especially as look, we're in the midst of what some people are calling a third wave. Some people are calling a continuance of the first wave of COVID here across the United States. Places are closing down again. Movies have been pushed and pushed. I'm hearing rumors that Wonder Woman 84 might end up being dropped on HBO Max. I don't really believe that. But the longer this goes on, the more likely it is. I mean, from theme parks and everything not working, the one bit that people can always access, can always spend money on, can always consume is going to be streaming. What they can get off of their phone, which is behind me. Now I can't use my big prop I was going to, in their hand or their computer screen in front of them or their TV, wherever they are. That they can always get to. They don't need to go out. They don't need to go to places. They don't need to risk theaters. They don't need to buy tickets for theme parks. They can always spend money with this. So I think this is definitely going to be the future. Then everything else will be built off of this. This is going to be our core of entertainment, and everything else is going to be special events in theaters or moments or things like that. Will big movies always exist? Sure. But I think you're right. I think this is the future of consumer entertainment for the foreseeable future. NV Warren, save my money for a 60-inch. Yeah, exactly. Zach Johnson, I agree. I'll go to theaters to see a Tarantino or Scorsese films, but for MCU and Star Wars, I'd rather be comfortable in my own home. Yeah, I mean, I love seeing MCU films on premieres. That is the one time I go to the movies is usually if the big MCU film, because the crowd and the excitement and the big screen, it's an event. It's awesome. But that's not going to be happening anytime soon. So,
I mean, if there's like if I get an opportunity, if like a theater showing the Shawshank Redemption, I'm there. I'm there. If somebody wants to air the Big Lebowski, I'm there. Stuff like that. But or as Raina here is saying, watch parties are where it's at, and I couldn't agree more, Raina, since I host so many of them.
What a nice transition. That's perfect. Also, my apologies. Ashley Eckstein is the actor who voices Ahsoka Tano in Clone Wars and her appearances in Rebels. So yeah, I don't want to forget her. She does an amazing job and turned a character that many people thought was like, oh my God, really? To a total fan favorite that we can't wait to see, obviously, either next week or the week after, depending on when they're going to let us see that. But I guess for now, maybe we should just go ahead and wrap things up. We've gushed long enough about Mandalorians and Katee Sackhoff, and why can't we have a whole other show with just her kicking ass on that? I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. Thank you, everyone who has joined us live in the chat. Thanks for sharing all of your insights, your thoughts. Everyone who is joining us in the archives, appreciate you checking this out. Please be sure to like and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of these, which we are, of course, doing through the rest of this season. And we are in the midst of our big season reviews of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We just did ours earlier this week. It was awesome. We'll be doing another one for season 2 next month in December. Be sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified whenever anything new drops. In the meantime, Rob, why don't you tell people where they can find you and any final thoughts you might have?
No, just I agree. Yeah, like our channel, subscribe to them, that kind of thing. Can't wait to see what they're gonna. I mean, look, I'm glad that they don't give us trailers for the next episode. I'm really glad. I mean, you really get to go in cold and get surprised, right? Because I hate watching trailers these days anyway. They're just the whole thing, and so this every time it's just a delight. It's at the end of my week, right as I get off of work, for the week, I get to have a new Mandalorian, and not know anything about it. But on my channel, Smirking Gun Reviews, let's see, Monday, we start season 2 of His Dark Materials. We're also going to be continuing with Old Shield New Reviews, where we're in season 3. On Thursdays, we've got Agent Carter with superfan Corey Shoemaker, who joins us all the time on our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff now. If you haven't checked out the premiere of that, we did episodes 1 and 2. It's a massive, massive video, so take your time with it. I also put out Boba Fett just put out his latest on my channel. Boba Fett Reviews The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. And we've also got, of course, this going on here every week. And on Twitch, I feel like I'm like, now how much would you pay? On Twitch, it's Smirking Gun Plays, all one word. We are playing Miles Morales, the new Spider-Man game. And we're about to go down the rabbit hole of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is going to be sucking up a lot of my time and people that watch it with me. So that's where I'm at right now. So, and on Twitter at reviews_gun. I'm done.
Excellent. And what about you, Don? What's you up to? Any final thoughts before we close things out here?
I mean, well, obviously, thank you as always for having me. Currently, I'm still in recovery mode, so you can catch me here Saturdays, and of course, doing the Agents of Shield thing when we do that. Yeah, man. Look, this is so great to be talking about something that we all love and that the world is loving right now. Who says that we as a human race are not united? Because I think we are all united in our love.
Hail, hail.
For the
Very
Mandalorian.
true. Very true. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us live, for joining us on the archives. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back next week for some more Mandalorian enjoyment here on the Fandalorians. Y'all take care, and we'll catch you next time. All right. Bye-bye.